what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple more interesting stories for you guys today. I just spoke directly with Bradon's coach, Abdullah, and we've got an update. So he filled me in a little bit more on the situation with Bradon. Bradon was hospitalized, and from the description that Abdullah gave me, it sounded more like maybe Bradon was choking on something or whatever he ate, like scratched his esophagus, and that's why he was coughing up blood. So I don't know if he actually had like food poisoning in his digestive tract, like an issue with his stomach or whatever. It sounded more like it was something specifically with his throat. And Abdullah also assured me that 100% Bradon will be competing tomorrow at prejudging. So prejudging is tomorrow, Friday night, and then finals, of course, is on Saturday. But Abdullah said he's looked at Bradon, he's seen his physique, he's still ready to go, his physique is fine, and he will 100% still be competing tomorrow. But he was hospitalized, and that's why he missed the press conference today, and that's why he missed the athlete check-in meeting yesterday. And it sounds like, again, from Abdullah's description, it was nothing super serious. It sounded like, again, something with his throat, if I understand correctly what he was saying. But it sounds like he's fine now. He's out of the hospital. He's recovering. And maybe he was already out of the hospital last night, and maybe whatever was wrong with his throat, maybe that's why he didn't do the press conference, because he couldn't talk or it hurt to talk or whatever. Maybe it wasn't so much that he was unhealthy. And I guess that could also be why we haven't heard directly from Bradon himself yet. Because again, the way Abdullah described it, whatever it was with the food, there was food involved somehow, but his esophagus was like damaged and scratched from whatever happened, and that was apparently the biggest concern health-wise. And the only thing Abdullah did say about Bradon's conditioning, he said he's a little flat right now, but they're going to fill him up. And maybe he was unable to eat for a period because of whatever happened. But at least we know he's not he doesn't have diarrhea, he's not puking, he's not like losing fluids, getting dehydrated. And he's not like really in a situation that could cause him to be, even unhealthier on stage if he was dehydrated from having, a stomach bug or food poisoning or whatever people thought it was initially. It doesn't sound like that's the case. And it sounds like he should be fine and ready to go. As Abdullah says, 100% Bradon will compete. I am a little surprised that we haven't seen a post directly from Bradon yet at this point, at least acknowledging it on social media or confirming that he's going to be there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 24 hours for sure. But I definitely wish Bradon a speedy recovery, and I'm really happy to hear that he's healthy and it's nothing more serious. And I hope that we really do get to see him compete. Now, next up in the news, we got an update here from a photographer at the Olympia, Moria Photo on Instagram, who apparently is showing that the Olympia has really listened to their fans this year and made a major improvement as far as the lighting in the background of the show, which is something I think fans have pointed out and been critical of in the past for sure, especially the year, it might have been last year or the year before, where they had all the strobing lights and lasers and crazy hectic backgrounds, which not only is not a great viewing experience like on the live stream, and it's very distracting from the physique, but for a photographer there at the show, it makes it very difficult for the photos to turn out well. To have these really bright backlit like LED boards right behind the bodybuilder. But according to this post in these pictures, he says, what an insane stage, improved lighting, dark background, and graphics. What could a bodybuilding photographer want more? And you can clearly see nothing crazy is going on the LEDs, even though there still is quite a bit of them. But it's obviously a very dark background, which is really good to be behind the bodybuilder and highlights their physique better. We'll see about the actual lighting when we see the physiques on stage. It's kind of hard to tell without seeing a bodybuilder up there how good or bad the lighting is. And I just think that this is a giant step in the right direction. It shows that they're actually listening to the fans. It's going to be a more pleasant viewing experience on the live stream and in person. And I think, I always say if we're going to be critical about these things when they get it wrong, we should be positive when promoters and shows get it right. And this looks like they're planning on getting it right this year and they're listening to the fans. So I think that's commendable. And I'm excited to see the final product. And we're going to get to see the 212 guys on that stage tomorrow morning. Now, next up in the news, we got some last-minute physique updates from Terrence Ruffin, Ruff Diesel, where he says this time around he made weight, no problem, and he says he was actually taller for this show, so that increase in weight, we talked about how it could increase the fat pads on the bottom of the foot and increase your height like half an inch. So it's those little variables you might not think about that could make a really drastic impact in a guy's physique, especially when weight is decided by height. So Terrence in this update, he looks phenomenal, man. He looks really full. He looks really, significantly better. He really does. And I do think it was really unfortunate that we didn't get to see him at the press conference with the other classic physique guys, but it's understandable because of his placing last year and slipping as much as he did. So they still had Ramon, Urs, Bradon, and Chris on stage, but I think that puts an even bigger chip on his shoulder this year, trying to earn that spot back and prove that last year was a fluke and that he belongs in that top 3. And I think that honestly, there's a really good chance that he does exactly that and that he places back in that top 3, which is why I think it was a shame that he wasn't at that press conference. But I think Classic Physique really, truly is going to be a battle this year. And I don't think those top 3 spots are going to be easily claimed. And I think that when Phil Heath and Chris Bumstead, when they were doing a little portion of the interview at the press conference, he made a really good point and brought up a perspective that I didn't really think about before. And that was when they were talking about the weight limits. They said, these weight limits were kind of a thing for these other guys because they're so far behind you, Chris. Because when you're talking about the taller guys having an advantage, who are they talking about? They're talking about Chris, the guy that keeps winning. So Phil said, when you win this year, is that really going to solidify your place as being just this solidified champion? Is this going to silence any haters? And Chris responded and said, yeah, he kind of laughed when they announced the weight increase and said, it's not going to change anything. He's still going to win. And if the other guys feel like they need an advantage to be more competitive with him, it's like a compliment to him. And Chris basically said, look, I don't need the weight increase. I'm going to win regardless. If these other guys feel like they need it, they're still battling it out for second. And if Chris does win again this year, which I think he will, that really leaves zero room for doubt of how great of a classic physique champion he is if he does beat these guys now that they all have this new advantage. Because then there's no excuses. And I say that because I'm looking at Terrence, and he does look significantly better. I think this will benefit him a lot, this increase in weight. And I think Bradon looks fantastic too. I think it's going to benefit him a lot. So if these guys come in looking drastically better, they have an advantage, and they took advantage of that advantage. If they come in looking at their all-time best, bigger than ever, and Chris still beats them, I think that would really say a lot about how dominant of a champion Chris really is. Now, the final story I want to talk about today, we got a physique update from Justin Shier today. He's a guy in Open that we haven't talked as much about. This will be his first Olympia ever. And honestly, I was really impressed with his update. He looks really hard, really just grainy here. And he's a pretty big guy. He's got a really nice upper body, but his legs look really good here too. And that was something I was worried about for him going into the Olympia because his upper body was so strong. And I felt like his legs were a little bit undersized, but they certainly don't look that here. I really like this guy's physique, and I feel like he could be a little bit of a wild card here because he does have a really nice shape. He's got a pretty good amount of size. And honestly, with it being his first Olympia, we have nothing to compare it to. So he could really place anywhere in this lineup because he doesn't have a track record of being like an outside of the top 10 guy or being like, we have no real basis to say he can't be top 10 or top 6 because we've never seen him against the best guys in the world before. He could do really well for all we know. But this update definitely caught my eye, and it definitely made him stand out as a guy that I feel like we're going to have to watch pretty closely at prejudging tomorrow. I feel like he could be somewhere in that mix, probably in the top 10 mix. We're probably not talking about first call-out, but he could shake things up here in the top 10. And I know we just got confirmation that Bradon is still going to compete, but if he was out for whatever reason, that would be half of last year's top 10 not showing up this year. And that top 10 would be wide open for a new, fresh guy like Justin Shier. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, click the bell notification icon, and as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out. All right, guys, don't forget to click that like button and subscribe to this channel if you enjoy the content. Also, check out my Instagram at Nick Strength Power. My Facebook page, which is simply Nick Strength and Power. My secondary YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Vlogs, for vlogs and bonus content that you will not see on this channel. And consider subscribing to my third YouTube channel, Nick Strength and Pokemon, which is all things Pokemon and trading card games, completely unrelated to this channel. So if you're into that, give that one a look. And all links to merchandise and social media will be in the description box below. If you guys want a Nick Strength and Power t-shirt, that will be in the Shopify link below. Have a great day.